So that's one key point to identify. Next thing is a trustee, like and the trustee be an individual, or it is, or it could be an entity where we see a corporate trustee is sort of put in place, oftentimes maybe as a backup, sort of a successor trustee, if that's the route someone chooses to go. The purpose of the trustee is to manage the island for clients, not only to the not only to the written language in the trust, but also to state and federal law as it relates to compliance with different aspects of an island. And then there's the beneficiaries. The other key players are the beneficiaries. Who's going to get it? Who's going to benefit from the life insurance proceeds that ultimately are going to be inside of the irrevocable life insurance trust? Next, we want to think about the trust agreement. Now, when I say this, again, I'm going to say this over and over again through this presentation and through our entire module series. We are not trying to make you estate planning experts. What we're trying to do is empower you to be able to have these conversations that are going to need to be had. Because there's going to be a mad dash. There's going to be a rush in 2025. Oh, goodness, the estate tax exemption is going away. What do I do? You need to be prepared to be able to have those conversations and be able to navigate to the point that we are now moving into the client's attorney. Right? So, when we talk about a draft or a trust agreement, we're talking about the client's attorney, local counsel drafting that trust agreement.
So Troy is one of the persons who works with advanced designs or advanced case designs. So for example, like the clients that I have that are putting 20, 50, and $70,000 a year into their policy, well, I don't have to work with him because I know what I'm doing, but you have him at the company who, if you don't know what you're doing, he'll be able to assist you in those type of high net worth clients.
All right. First time here on a marriage tip. It's crucial. It's very crucial that when we think about when an irrevocable trust, an irrevocable life insurance trust in particular is drafted, that the grantor does not retain incidents of ownership. That's a fancy that's a fancy law school word that that's in a code section somewhere. Incidents of ownership. And in other words, if the purpose is to give it away, if I retain anything, if I retain any rights that allows me to have control and in essence not give it away, then it's considered not outside your estate, and then the death benefit ultimately will end up taxed. So here's what I mean: if someone kept the ability to if I'm a grantor and I have an irrevocable trust and I kept the ability to change the policy beneficiaries, surrender the policy, borrow.
I'm gonna put a question in here that most of the agents are probably thinking but aren't putting. Is
I have maintained incidents of ownership, and that benefit is going to be includable when I die. It's going to be includable in my estate. So I lose the benefits that presumably one wants when they're doing an irrevocable life insurance trust. So make sure when you're looking at the client, maybe ask you to look, or maybe you send it to Emeritus Advanced Planning for a second opinion. Those are the things that we look for to make sure that we aren't inadvertently maintaining incidents of ownership. So here's what we want. I need everyone to sort of pay attention here real quick. We're going to look at the chat. I want you to chat any answer or chat your answer, A, B, C, or D. Which of the following is an incident of ownership? A, the right to elect the term conversion. B, the right to transfer another policy into the ILIT. C, the right to use as collateral, the use policy as collateral. Or D, the right to make premium payments. Tell me in the chat.
Let's see, we've got everybody going with the resounding C.
Is an incidence of ownership. All right. Let's go. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Don't be shy.
Resounding C.
All right. There we go. I see some coming in. Okay, here we go.
Brian is correct. A, B, C, and D.
Everyone's paying attention. I didn't make it too hard on you, right? I didn't make it too hard on you. Make sure I get that right. All right. I think most of you say, Dane's helping me out a little bit. Most of you say, absolutely right. The right to use the policy as collateral on the loan would be considered an incidence of ownership, and that would cause a problem and make that death benefit includable in that client's estate, right? Maybe they didn't know it. Maybe they thought it was going to be outside, but being able to do that would make it includable, and we want to avoid it. So just kind of keep that in mind. The next emeritus tip that we want to make sure that we understand is crummy powers. Now you may have heard about this. Maybe if you've heard anything about like irrevocable life insurance trust and most of the time it's like, isn't that this thing, this case, these special powers those are the crummy powers. And the crummy powers grants the beneficiaries a temporary right to withdraw the contributions or the premium payments, or the ultimate contributions to the trust that are likely going to be premium payments that the trust
what up, bro?
to use as premium payments. Here's what crummy powers. First of all, crummy is the name of a case, a tax law case, right? And what the crummy powers are in place for, it allows the grantor to use the contributions of something that's likely to be a future gift, to use it to turn it into a present interest gift. In other words,
I'm holding my phone in my hands, y'all, because it's the only way I can keep it level with my computer. And that's why it's shaky.
Something that's going to be a gift in the future, right? And future gifts, typically you have to use your lifetime exemption for future gifts. For annual gifts or present interest gifts, we can use the annual gifts, the annual gifts exclusion. Crummy powers and the exercise of crummy powers allows us to take something that's likely going to be exercised in the future, but have it count towards that present interest limit. And that present interest limit in this case is $18,000. Again, that's that number's indexed, and that $18,000 is the most up-to-date number. That's the number for 2024, and that annual gift exclusion limit is $18,000 per beneficiary. So if I have a situation that I have more than one beneficiary, I can gift, or I can gift 18, then what that be 36, and you sort of do the math. I can do 18,000 per beneficiary. Some best practices with crummy powers, you have to give a certain amount of time, a specific time that the beneficiary has the right to witdraw, and we want to limit that withdrawal right to the
Rael, unfortunately, I didn't end up passing the exam yesterday. I failed by a few points. It happens. So I have to just pay another rack and take it again, but it's worth the $1,000.
I have seen some 15 days. I wouldn't recommend doing that, right? That's teetering on the edge of not enough time. 30 days, 45 days is typically where you see it. At the end of the day, you want to make sure that the trustee has the specific responsibility to give timely notice to all the beneficiaries, and you want to do it as official as possible. Sign receipts, certified mail, things like that. Now, again, you're not the one. You're not the one exercising this. You're likely not the trustee, and you're certainly, in most cases, you're not the attorney drafting documents.
That shit was long, bro. It's a 4-hour test.
But what should happen is you should have a knowledge and understanding of how this process works. So oftentimes you can sort of help the client through it, right?
But it's like the CPA exam. Most people don't pass it on their first try.
I'll say it again. For the recording, it's the attorney's job to draft, but it's helpful for you to understand to be able to be an advisor to your client. All right. So now let's take a look at how and why crummy powers are important and how it works in an ILIT. We're back to Kayla, and this is her, when she was age 45, so like 15 years ago, right? So Kayla needs a death benefit of $10 million. We know the annual premium on that is $75,125.
There goes our boy Heritage Wealth Planning.
So $75,125. Kayla has four beneficiaries. She has 3 children, 1 grandchild, which is for
You know who that is, Ra.
What happens if Kayla doesn't use crummy powers? Here's the way it works out. That $10 million death benefit, that $75,000, that $75,000 premium payment. If she doesn't use any gift exemption, that's $75,000, per beneficiary, or excuse me, that's 75,000 divided by 4 creates, creates a gift tax.
But I actually talked with Josh, who's the guy from Heritage Wealth Planning, bro. Like I know a lot of these motherfuckers who are high powered. Like you said, Rob, my skill set, I can't be wasting my time nickel and diming with these low levels, because I'm talking to people who trying to do 75,000 plus a year in their policies.
Is there a better way? When we use crummy powers, we now have $18,000 times 4 of an exemption. Why? Why 4? Because we have 3 children and 1 grandchild. That's the ultimate beneficiaries that that the irrevocable trust that the irrevocable trust is ultimately going to. So that total gift tax exemption in that case is $72,000. Right.
So basically, she's paying $3,000 a year.
You could have paid tax on the $75,000, like we said, ended up being a little over $15,000. We have a gift tax exemption of $72,000, still some taxes due, but ultimately, if we do the same math with the $3,000, the $3,125 that would ultimately be subject to tax, Kayla would pay taxes of a little over $560, a savings of $15,462. Right, so it's it pays to use the crummy powers when we're talking about contributing to life insurance that's ultimately going to save even more.
So who is it that said life insurance isn't a tax shelter? Your local CFP, your local Primerica agent, your local money manager who wants you to have your assets under their management.
We've talked about a bunch of different things.
I'm with you, bro. You found I know you found one.
And there's 2 methods to fund the trust, right? Ultimately, we can, when we're talking about a life insurance, like the life insurance, we can either transfer an existing policy into the trust, or we can have the trust create a new policy, and then we contribute the sufficient premium to the policy, much like we saw in the previous example using crummy powers. I'm gonna give you.
I'm making a
only one of these
YouTube.
ways is the best practice to do it. I know there may be I know you may use one, but I sense in the marriage tip. The best practice. I'm gonna say this again. I can hear my colleagues in advanced planning standing up and beating on the table. Thank you. The best practice is to have the trust apply for the policy. That is the best practice. Many of you have heard of the 3-year look back. This is where it comes into play. If the grantor makes a gratuitous transfer of a life insurance, right?
And there's a lot of CPAs who know nothing about insurance.
In other words, if the grantor gifts a life insurance policy, and that's what a transfer of a policy into an irrevocable trust,
which is why you'll find a lot of EAs who do have their insurance license. But they don't even understand this, because all they're worried about is taxes, and they don't know the loopholes through taxes.
That death benefit, if they die within 3 years, that death benefit is pulled back into the taxable state. So everything that they're trying to do, i.e., get the death benefit outside of the estate, so I can have liquidity and all the things we talked about, is eliminated by something we could have just applied for have the irrevocable life insurance trust apply for the life insurance itself, right? So it was never in the grantor's estate, and it makes life so much simpler. So in order to avoid the 3-year look back rule, the best practice, I'm gonna say it again, the best practice is to have the trust apply for the policy. Say it again. The trust
applies for the policy.
So I know we get into situations. I know we get into situations where it's like, hey, we're moving fast for the sake of the client. We want to make sure that we get it done. I'm telling you, we save ourselves so much hassle. We eliminate the egg on our face and having to try to figure out a way. If we just have the have the trust drafted, the trust apply for the life insurance, and everything sort of works out so much better. And in that
That they are, brother.
When those situations come up, just wanted to make sure, right? I really wanted to sort of pound that issue. The trust should apply for the policy when we're talking about an irrevocable life insurance trust. Okay, which means the trust needs to be in existence. Okay, all right.
So someone says, who would be the insured if the trust applies for life insurance?
Right.
So again, you draft the agreement, fund the trust, altering the trust, terminating the trust, determine the purpose.
Mean irrevocable, right? So, and the answer is it depends. You actually can alter the trust by consent of the trustee and the beneficiaries. Oftentimes, if you have multiple beneficiaries, they can get together and say, "Hey, we want to do this," and we all agree. And with consent, you can alter the trust there. There's something called a trust protector, that you can name. Hey, I want to name this person that if the trust gets out of whack or lost or the loss, I'm gonna be able to appoint. I'm gonna appoint someone that that can say, "Hey, we need to change the trust in order to protect its original intent, i.e., trust protector." We can also do the canting, where we pour, elements of one trust into the other. Again, oftentimes if things have changed, if laws have changed, that we want to make sure. And then we have, substitution powers, where we have the ability. Again, it's something that's specifically written in, where you have the ability to substitute assets in and out of the trust. Again, that's something that's specifically written in. But irrevocable, while it means irrevocable, there are some ways to maneuver to be able to get the desired result, especially when we're talking things that maybe have taken a look that have changed or laws have changed or in some cases feelings have changed over time about family members, grantor, whoever it may be. So irrevocable, yes, it's irrevocable, but there are some options. You just sort of keep that in mind. And then finally, what happens if we decide to terminate the trust? Like, yes, that's always an option, and that could be by the trust agreement terms. Like there's times where there's an expiration of a term or event. There are sort of ways to alter. Again, beneficiary consent. We get together and say, hey, you know what, we're just gonna pay this all out and be done. Or you can petition the court, where we said the purpose has the purpose is passed. We want to be done. For whatever reason, you could petition the court. So yes, there is the ability to terminate the irrevocable trust, either by purposeful design in the expiration of the event, or by the beneficiaries coming together and say, yeah, this sort of makes sense. Okay? All right. So now, that was irrevocable trust. Now what we're going to learn here is that whether it's irrevocable trust, whether it's what we're going to talk about Q-tip trust, we're going to talk about there are some overriding principles that sort of flow through.
He is a member of our advanced markets team. He does advanced design cases. I generally don't use him too much because I know most of what he's talking about, but a lot of agents don't quite, so they need the company's help from him. I work with him as well sometimes.
So what is
oh snap
for? Qualified terminal interest property, and it's property placed in trust that's eligible for a marital deduction. You don't know what the marital deduction is, you're in luck, you're in the right place today. That's eligible for the marital deduction when certain criteria is met. Yeah. So what's that gobbledygook mean? Right?
So he's actually an attorney as well, Ra. He's an attorney. He holds his CHFC and that CLU designation I was telling you about.
You're in luck. What's the marital deduction?
Which is 3 courses above the CFP.
Allows one spouse to transfer all their assets, everything they own, to the other spouse, either during their life or at death, without incurring any estate or gift tax, right? So love my, you know,
Bro,
I
stop
love my
playing around and
spouse,
get your
so I'm
Beamer.
gonna give them everything, either during my life or during my death, right? Keep that in mind, right? That's the marital reduction. So yep, you can, you know, I'm thinking of another movie, Shawshank Redemption. He's hanging off the building. It's like you can give everything. It's not a one-time gift. You can give everything to your, you know, to your spouse, either during life and death, and not have to incur any estate or gift tax. That's the marital deduction, you know, very succinctly. Why do we have Q-tip trusts? Or why do we have qualified terminal interest property? Why is this even important? Now, I want you to think of these scenarios as to why we're even talking Q-tips. And the reason why we're talking is because we want to make sure that assets go to the proper beneficiaries. So when you think about blended families, I'll use myself as an example. I was just telling this joke earlier as I was practicing. You know, I love my, you know, I love my wife, and I want my kids, and I think, you know, I think she would more than do right by my kids if something happens to me. But just in case there's a pool boy in the picture, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that my kids take advantage of this. I want to still take care of my, you know, my surviving spouse, but I want to make sure that my kids benefit from it, not the pool boy, right? So when we talk about assets going to the proper beneficiaries, blended families come to mind. Children from prior marriages come to mind. But then we want to make sure that the surviving spouse is taken care of. I still want to be able to give it to them, but I want to make sure that kids that maybe the surviving spouse doesn't have, you know, as much interest in, let's say, in making sure that they're taken care of or something is left. I want to, you know, I want to be able to
You ain't looking at the 5 series, bro?
That happens for my kids, right? My kids from, you know, prior marriage. So that's the purpose. Now, what's the criteria? Property passed from, you know, from the properties passed from the decedent to the surviving spouse. You know, remember, we're sort of taking advantage of the marital deduction. The surviving spouse has a qualifying, you know, income interest. In other words, they're going to be able to live off the income from the assets during their life, right? And then my executor or the decedent's executor makes the Q-tip election. So the executor says this property is placed in trust, and it's, you know, and we're electing it as a qualified terminal interest property trust, which means that you're going to be able to get income, but it's ultimately going someplace else. Okay. The trust agreement says that qualifying
they customize the steering wheel and the back emblem.
Entitled to all of the income payable at least annually, and during the spouse's life, nobody else has the ability to appoint any part of the property to someone else other than the spouse. So you get to live off of it. You get at least an annual payment. Nobody else can appoint any. So effectively, it's like yours while you're living, and the only person that, you know, that can benefit from it is the surviving spouse. And upon the death of the surviving spouse, the remaining trust assets go to the beneficiaries, not the pool boy, my kids, right? And then what's the benefit? The benefit here is it provides financial support to the surviving spouse. Like, I love my spouse. I want to make sure that they're taken care of. I'm just not too happy about the pool boy, or at least I'm not too excited about the pool boy potentially taking away from my kids. It assures the beneficiary inheritance, and it gives you a sense of control over the distributions, because the trustees sort of will manage those assets, and there's estate tax benefits. Because because even though I've given it to my wife, but really it's going to someone else, I still get to take advantage of the marital deduction, which allows me to give anything and all things to my spouse and not have to pay estate or gift tax. All right. So, I'm sorry, I think okay, so we're gonna dive in. Apologize, I think I went a little too far too fast. So, why Q-tip trust? Why, you know, irrevocable life insurance trust? You currently mentioned credit shelter trust. The thing about AV trust planning, right? And we're going to show you why it's important. The thing about AV trust planning is it's two trusts that are designed to be two separate things for the
Ooh, that
benefit
interior is nice.
of one or both members of of a marriage. That's why we have AB trust plan. So um, let's understand why AB
Oh, that's a
trust
3
plan.
series.
Most people will say, I should say, most people will say that AB trust planning is largely gone by the wayside, and here's why. Because if you look here, this is a brief history of the estate tax and the estate tax exemption. You know, yours truly came into the business, graduated from law school in 1997. By 99, I was working in in an insurance home office in some capacity, like advanced planning, advanced sales, technical sales, call it what you want. When I came into the business, when I first got my life health securities license, the estate tax exemption was $600,000. That meant if you had over $600,000, you had an estate tax problem, because that's all you were able to shelter. And we see that number go up. And as that number goes up, then the use of AB trust planning, which is what we're going to see, is sort of diminished or minimized. We're here to say that one, that's coming back. AB trust planning, we believe, is coming back, and two, it never really went away. And when you think about what you can and can't do with it. Okay, so let's understand this, and I have several examples, and I'm going to move through here pretty quickly, just so we understand why you think about AB trust planning, right? All right, so now we have spouse X, spouse Y. We have 6.5 million with one spouse. We have spouse Y with $500,000. So we have a $7 million total estate. But this is 2009, and I'm going to take you back to 2009, where the unified tax exemption was $3.5 million. The North Carolina Tar Heels were national basketball champions. The University of Nebraska Cornhuskers was 1 second away from winning the Big 12 title. Thank you, Texas. But we are back in 2009 with a $3.5 million unified tax exemption. All right, so here's how it could work. Spouse X died, leaving everything to Y. Well, that's great. So I got a unified tax exemption. So we have 6.5 million. I left 6.5 million to my spouse. I have no taxable estate, no estate tax, and I had a unified credit of $1.4 million. Now remember,
Mechanic special.
It's what's generated from the tax exemption. So $3.5 million tax exemption generates a $1.4 million credit that's directly offset against any estate tax that would be due and payable. That's just basic sort of tax law. Credits offset tax directly. So in our example, there's zero taxes due. Spouse Y dies now. Spouse Y has a $7 million estate. There's no marital deduction. There's a taxable estate of $7 million, a state tax of $2.8 million. The spouse Y uses their unified credit of $1.4 million, and there's still $1.4 million of taxes due on a $7 million estate. That's using the unlimited, that's using the marital deduction, nothing else, no more, no less. Okay. What happens if we go, what happens if we title this thing right? What happens if we title the assets right? What happens if we make sure that we balance up? Okay, so instead of giving all, using all of the unlimited marital deduction, I say, we think about it a little bit and we say, we're only going to use $3 million of the marital deduction. So $6.5 million estate, $3 million, $3 million marital deduction. That leaves a $3.5 million taxable estate. Lo and behold, we hit the number right on the head. $3.5 million taxable estate generates an estate tax of $1.4 million. Hey, we got a $3.5 million exemption. So $1.4 million of estate tax, $1.4 million of unified credit, zero taxes due.
That's 5,000 down.
Remember, we gave $300 or $3 million to Y via the marital deduction. So their estate now is $3.5 million.
Yeah, that's what it says. 5,000 down.
$3.5 million taxable estate. Number says $1.4 million estate tax, $1.4 million unified credit, no taxes due. You transferred $7 million.
That interior is hard.
Both unified credits, and now and the marital deduction, you get and you paid no estate tax. That was 2009. Now most people would say AB trust planning sort of went by the wayside. Why? Because we got these large exemptions. So let's look at some other things. What happens if it doesn't cooperate? What happens if it doesn't cooperate and spouse Y dies first? You can see the numbers. $500,000 estate. I'm going to give it all to spouse X, which you would often see that. Still don't use a unified credit because I'm not above it. So $1.4 million offset. All right. Now spouse X dies, and now we see virtually what we saw in the previous example. Instead, $7 million taxable estate, $2.8 million estate tax, a unified credit of $1.4 million, taxes due still of $1.4 million. Right? Okay. Spouse Y dies. Now, spouse Y dies, and we're going to try to offset some of what spouse Y, or we're not going to offset anything. We don't leave anything to X, right? $500,000 taxable estate. The estate tax is $200,000. We got plenty of unified credit, no taxes due. But now we have $6.5 million. We still have a problem because there's still $1.2 million taxes due because the unified credit is not able to offset all of the estate tax, right? These are the issues that we had to deal with. This is how AB trust planning helped us, right? And it's where one or both spouses create two distinct trusts. One's the credit shelter trust, one's the A or B, and I sometimes flip them A or B, but the idea is either it's a credit shelter trust or the bypass.
You would get a 4? I thought you would have got a 5 series, bro.
One trust we're using to specifically take advantage of whatever the estate tax exemption limit is at that time. And then another trust is the marital and family trust. That's the trust that's going to exist for everything over that credit shelter number, right? That's how I think of it. So A or B, one's the credit shelter bypass trust, and they're called all these things. And then one is the marital or family trust. All right? How does it work? With the credit shelter trust, it's either done by a will or a revocable living trust that once someone dies, it becomes irrevocable, right? It's effective upon the death of the first spouse,
What's up, NY Nikki?
The trustee to place the assets in certain places, so that the exemption is taken advantage of. That way, the exemption isn't wasted. And again, there's some things that happened that made AB Trust sort of made AB Trust some fall out of vogue. But this is how and why it was done. Okay, so we place assets in the trust to make sure.
And look at that. This is a brother who look like us, NY Nikki and Rael. So it ain't no excuse for folks to be sitting here babbling back and forth about bitter baby daddies and bitter baby mamas when we ain't got credit shelter trusts. Niggas ain't got $1 million. We need $1 million before we talking about all this other bullshit.
That's how the credit shelter is generally set up. The marital trust is largely set up the same way.
Because Cat Williams and Steve Harvey got their $1 million.
The difference is that it's the marital trust is the assets that are in excess of that exemption limit typically. All right, and then upon the death of the surviving spouse, everything's sort of distributed to the intended beneficiary.
Let me see who just texted.
Okay. All right. So how does all this work together? Right. One, helps preserve the estate tax exemption. It provides financial stability to the surviving spouse. Right? We want to take care of the surviving spouse, but not necessarily the pool boy, because I want to be able to provide some control over that disposition. Like, I love you, but I don't love the pool boy that much, and I want to make sure that people are taken care of. Okay?
I'm on my phone, by the way.
So let's take a look at these really quick. I want to make sure that I'm cognizant of time. So here we have an example where, where we have where we have spouse X, and spouse X, remember, is 6.5 million. Spouse Y is 500,000. So in our example, spouse X is going to have $3.5 million of their assets put into a credit shelter trust, right? And then the B trust is going to be their remaining assets, right? That $3 million, right? And then for spouse Y, they're going to do the same thing. Essentially the same thing. Spouse Y has $500,000 of assets, but there's one key difference. Remember when we had our most favorable result, when we had titling and all those things? If you didn't want to go through that, one of the things that you could do is you could gift spouse Y, $3 million of the assets. And remember, because we're looking to take advantage.
And if y'all notice, I'm not really supposed to be sharing this with the public, but I don't care because I want all you guys to end up my clients, and I prefer to work with an educated client. An educated client makes my job a hell of a lot easier. I don't have people calling me up, hey, what's this? It's $2 whole. Look, I made $40 off of this. I ain't got time for that. Not when I got people paying $75,000 a year into their life insurance.
The titling exam. That's where AB trust planning comes into play, where we would do all of that. So titling, but it gave people that sense of control over the disposition. I love you, but I don't love pool boy. That's going to
there goes that pool boy again. So even he's talking about those issues that we talk about in the Black Manosphere. But this guy got money. So he's saying, hey, listen, I want to leave something to my wife, but if the pool boy gets in the picture, I don't want him getting it. But he can have those conversations because he's got at least $1.4 million sitting around.
But I'm going to port, or I'm going to send over my unused portion of my estate tax exemption to my spouse. So
that's a 4 series?
In today's world, not in 2000.
That color hard, bro. Oh, that's an M. That's a 5 series. And it's an M, bro. You need to get that.
And I could use the unlimited marital deduction. And again, depending on the size of the
oh, and you got the big brakes?
However, the reason why AB trust plan,
you be stunting hard in that BMW, bro. I still prefer my Benzes, but I'm not gonna lie, like that's not a sexy Beamer.
Take advantage of like my kids or kids from a previous.
And it's got a good
like
price.
I said earlier, people fight, and people will fight, and they will fight over whose kids are.
Is it 8-cylinder?
I know everyone out there had has these examples.
Little Ferry, New Jersey.
Okay. Whew. So today, why do we use AB trust?
Oh, okay.
Right. Today we use AB trust to.
I think the 7 series are 8 cylinders.
Estate tax exemption, right?
Oh, my fault, y'all. I'm talking to another insurance agent. You see, when we're in the financial services world, don't let motherfuckers act like they don't get money. We do get money. We drive these type of cars. So one of my fellow agents is looking at cars. He prefers BMW over Benz. I prefer Benz over BMW. But at the end of the day, they're both luxury cars. I actually want to get myself a Beamer because a Beamer, even though a Benz has a smoother ride, Nikki, Beamers are more of a driver's car. So if you like to drive and be on the road like I do, you'll either get if you're going to get a Benz, it's probably going to be an AMG, which means all money gone Benz. And AMGs are not everyday drivers.
Hey, I want to make sure that my spouse is taken care of if something happens to me and vice versa, but I ultimately want this.
Don't worry, M1 Nikki. I'm with you. I like Benzes. I love my E-Class. And I don't like the S-Class. S-Class is like driving a damn boat. Those cars are too big.
And oftentimes, and with most trusts, we want to build in the ability.
Don't go to that dealership.
Our beneficiaries from themselves, right? I mean, we see it all the time. How many times have we seen people?
Though they did have a CL I wanted. She, what up, bro?
Third, fourth generation. Why? Because people just start good with money sometimes, and we want to do our best to protect them from themselves. And then all of this, like we saw in module 1 and certainly in module 2, we want to avoid probate. We want to avoid probate as best we can. All right. So whether it's AB trust planning, like that sounds familiar.
So now, ladies and gentlemen, why do you think they say this is for financial professional use only, not for use with clients? Because they don't want the average client understanding this type of stuff. They want you to get fooled by Dave Ramsey. Buy term, invest the difference. And invest in something that's going to get you 10%, but not guaranteed. Right? You never heard of an ILIT, irrevocable life insurance trust, or a qualified, I forgot what the Q-tip was, qualified trust inter properties, right? This is all with life insurance. This is why it's for financial professional use only, because they want certain agents only to know this and only give this to the rich people. While you have stuff like Primerica, while they have a noble idea of bringing Wall Street to Main Street, they don't really bring Wall Street to Main Street. They just dupe you into spending $25 a month on a mutual fund.
Maybe you are. But most folks on in the earshot of my voice, you're not an attorney, so I don't expect you to draft it, but being able to understand it will help you have these conversations and move things forward, both with your client, with maybe an attorney that you work with, or maybe a COI that you're looking to develop a relationship with. Being able to dive into this world and speak that language is a good thing. Okay? So, an ILIT trust, right? Created for the sole purpose of holding life insurance. And that was set by some dude named Troy Branch, about 45, 50 minutes ago, right? You may end up with an ILIT and, an ILIT trust, and the question may come up, there's two types of life insurance, single life policy, second to die. You'll see it used in several scenarios. We're going to look at a diagram here, whether it's single life, whether it's second to die, using the life insurance, for the ILIT piece of the trust. When you lose, when you use single
That's
life,
the blue beamer you was looking at, bro?
Look back at our example where we had AB trust on both sides. Oftentimes, what we'll do is you'll purchase two life policies, one for each spouse.
Like I said, Joel, I'm watching this, I'm showing y'all this, and I'm also talking to an agent of mine who works in the field. We're not going to hide it. Yes, we make money. We're not bragging. We want you to win. But the reason we make money is because we do a lot of specialized work for y'all. And so we should be paid accordingly. So yes, you are going to see us buying flashy shit.
One policy per spouse to fund the credit shelter piece. If you use a second to die, again, you'll purchase one policy on the lives of both.
Oh, that's 16 is hard.
On the death of the first spouse, no death benefit is paid.
Is that the CL?
Second spouse, death benefit is paid directly to the children, no estate tax. So it's a great way to build in that liquidity, or to have that estate liquidity, or to have the estate deal with it, its stuff right. And if I'm
about to say, don't even waste your time looking at Benzes, bro. You a Beamer guy. Fuck it. Get what you want.
Those kids who maybe aren't in the business, aren't working the family farm.
Oh, it wasn't letting you leave the page?
Whatever it may be, you can use the second to die, the life insurance, as part of the trust to allow you to do many of those things that we saw, whether it's liquidity, estate equalization, spendthrift, all the things that we've talked about, reasons why we would want to use life insurance in an irrevocable life insurance trust, or use
that 17 is hard, that green, but that's a real wheel drive.
Okay, all right. Q-tip trust, used to provide financial support to the surviving spouse for life and ensures intended beneficiaries ultimately inherit. This is our pool boy example, right? It's used in place of the standard marital trust, right? So again, if we look at our Legos, a marital trust Lego is different.
What's up, Kay?
Trust Lego. And it's used, and
this is that life insurance stuff I be talking about. And again, for financial professional use only, not for use with clients. Why? Because they don't want the average person understanding this.
Dad have been together for 50 years, and mom loves kids as much as dad does. right? Q-tip trust, presupposes that, like, I'm pretty sure mom loves the kids or dad loves the kids or whoever loves the kids as much as as the deceased spouse, but we want to make sure, right? So the Q-tip trust is used in place of the standard marital trust. It's funded with the remaining estate. So remember, whether it's the marital
So we going to
trust,
dealerships this week, bro?
trust, whether it's a specialized marital family trust called the Q-tip trust, it's funded with the remaining estate assets beyond the credit shelter trust, right? It's funded with those remaining assets. And it adds the ability to control through the use of
Remember, you also want to factor in tax, title, and insurance.
Q-tip is qualified terminal interest property. You have a terminal interest, meaning that surviving spouse has a terminal interest in that property. You can use it, you can enjoy it, no one can touch it but you. You can do all those things. Except when you die, you don't get the vote on where it goes. That's already predetermined, right? That's why you have a Q-tip trust, and that's why it's used in those blended marriage or blended family, second marriage.
Thank you, Kay. Well, and that was just me talking about term insurance. When I get into the whole life stuff, this is why I said it's so
and this might get a little confusing.
difficult.
I'm not going to sort of beat you over the head with it, but we have a Q-tip trust, we have a credit shelter trust, and if you remember, we have X and Y. They're going to have a credit shelter trust that is going to be funded up to the $13.6 million estate tax exemption limit. Anything above that, we're going to go ahead and
yes, the insurance company's making money.
In this case, the marital or family trust. In this case, it's a Q-tip trust, and that's going to allow that surviving spouse to have
that 14 is hard.
Come from it to use it, but ultimately, it's going down below. It's going down below to pass to the children and the other heirs. If you choose, you could have the irrevocable life insurance trust. If we have the single policy version.
It's a dealership out here that can source whatever whip you want, but they be overcharging. Remember, I showed you that C43 I was looking at. They wanted too much for that. They wanted $22,000, and I was like, it has 115,000 miles. I'm not paying $22,000. I understand it's an AMG, but it wasn't even an AMG S.
You can have it passed directly to the kids.
If I'm gonna get an AMG, I'm gonna get an AMG S. Nah, I know, but that's what I'm saying. The dude was charging too much. I'm not paying $22,000 for that for like a 8-year-old car that has 114,000 miles. You gotta have under 100,000 miles for me to pay 20,000+.
And how we use them in sort of the modern comprehensive estate,
especially when it's damn near a 10-year-old car.
So, what did we discuss today? We discussed what is an ILIT, what is Q-tip, what is qualified terminal interest property, what are Q-tip trusts.
Qualified terminal interest property. Sorry, that's what a Q-tip is.
We'll always sink into from here on out, and then we talked about how does AB trust planning work from a historical perspective and why it's still sort of valid today. All right, so we know we want to walk away here with something to sort of take away. And I want you to take away is just remember, irrevocable trusts are estate planning Legos, right? And like Legos, irrevocable trusts, they're sturdy, they come in all different colors and sizes, and you can build a lot of things with them. So that's the first thing. Remember our estate planning Legos that are irrevocable trusts. Like we want you to look at issues through the estate planning lens. Our goal is not for you to be an estate planning attorney or an expert, but what we hope you do is you pick up just another couple of tools that you can sharpen so that you can be able to have those discussions, or at least be able to have the right question to be able to spark those discussions regarding
So, ladies and gentlemen, if your financial professional ain't doing this type of training, then they ain't the one for you. You can literally ask, what kind of training are you doing? Have you done any updates to look at new laws, new regulations, new training, new laws, regulations, rules, ways that can help me with loopholes? Again, life insurance is, in fact, a tax shelter.
And then finally, AB trusts are here to stay. I know with the with portability and some of those things, they sort of fallen out of vogue. But they're
This guy right here is an attorney. He also has his designations of CHFC, Chartered Financial Consultant, and CLU, Chartered Life Underwriter. Chartered Life Underwriter is 3 steps above CFP. CFP is just the most popular because most Americans, most regular people who aren't in financial services are taken by that. Just like an EA enrolled agent is likely better than a CPA, but a CPA is more known.
A little bit of pride in landing this plane. So here's what I want
I'll be
you
on
to
module 4
I want you
too.
to think about next time, March 28th, mark it down. And in fact, I'm going to allow you to have a little bit of time to break out your phones and scan the QR code. And go ahead and get registered for module 4 right now. Module 4, we're going to be tying up loose ends with grantor trust. And you maybe have heard of it. You maybe have heard intentionally defective grantor trust or grantor trust. What is it? Why use it? And I'll give you a little preview. Grantor trust are largely the trust that we speak about today are written as grantor trust. Yeah. So it's something that you're going to want to pay attention to. And you're going to want to sort of continue.
Oh, they're going to teach us about slats. Yeah, I can't wait for that.
Sort of modern day estate planning
Register.
And things that are going to be coming back in vogue as the estate planning module series continues to move on.
Put my info in there.
I'm for the branch. I'll leave module 4 up here, tying up loose ends. I'm for the branch. Here's some contact information, both for myself, 402-325-4150, Troy.branch@emeritus.com. You can also reach out to our advanced planning department, 800-319-6903, option 2. And we have our advanced planning mailbox, advancedplanning@emeritus.com. There's the last opportunity to register for module 4. I just want to thank everyone for your time and attention. It was awesome. Like I said, it's you thought I was kidding at the beginning when I said this is the Smokey and the Bandit module where we got a long way to go in a short time to get there. I think I just delivered my cores in the old state fair there somewhere in I forget where they were. I think they were in Atlanta. Yeah, I think they were in Atlanta. So I delivered, and it's time to it's time to move on. Thanks everyone for your time and attention. Get registered for module 4, and we'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and make sure that we get those questions addressed back out in a timely manner, so we can answer any questions that came through the chat that any of my colleagues weren't able to get answered in the time allotted.
So, ladies and gentlemen,
have a great day.
I'm gonna hop off. Did a little bit of training with y'all. Y'all were actually here with me for the whole training. You also got to experience the behind the scenes where insurance agents, we do talk back and forth and talk shit to each other about, hey, I'm about to buy this fancy car. I'm about to buy this expensive thing. And again, we do a lot of work for y'all. A lot of work that we do that we don't get paid for. So when we do get paid for it, it is well within our right to go ahead and buy a lot of those frivolous fancy things. If you remember in my last video, I told you, some financial people will tell you dumb shit like I'd rather be walking down the street with a plastic bag full of $5,000 than with a Louis Vuitton bag with $100 in it. And the only reason you have that $5,000 is to spend it. Now, if you spend it on something that is an income producing asset, then with the money or the income that you receive from that income producing asset, you have all the right in the world to spend it on frivolous shit. The next thing is stop listening to these people who don't deal with high net worth or ultra high net worth individuals telling you dumb shit like rich people don't wear Gucci. Shut the fuck up. Rich people wear a lot of Gucci. They just don't wear Gucci across their fucking chest. It's a little tab in the back that says Gucci. And it probably costs 10 times as much as that shirt that says Gucci across it. That's going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you hit that like, drop a comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you're made aware every time I release new content. And as always, share, share, share. Lastly, to contribute to channel growth or to schedule an appointment with a licensed financial professional, the links are in the description of this video. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, wipe ass. Work in progress every day and see success. Wipe ass. Work in progress every day and see success. Wipe ass. Work in progress every day and see success. And remember, folks, when people challenge you, they don't challenge you to challenge you, but they challenge you to challenge you. Accept the challenge. Salute.